man.
And that's the interesting thing about the molecule DMT or dimethyltryptamine. By the way, Joe Rogan enters the chat, but but but
Oh, okay, Rogan. All right.
but
Maybe we took a little bit before we got on here.
but the funny thing with that molecule is, of course, you can take it as a drug. You can produce it in a synthetic way, but it's also produced by our body and in plants. So I wanted to bridge that gap between meditation, but also with dreaming and sleeps. I dream really profoundly every night. If I write it down, I have like a whole page of what I was dreaming, which is crazy. I get just drawn to this other world, which is also your subconscious thought. So the things that appear in my dream are also things I run into in daily life, which is kind of a meditation because I'm dealing with that stuff, what I saw during the day. It may be random. It may be just something I've seen visually, but sometimes also a feeling I want to sort through. Sometimes I wake up after a gym and I'm like, I have to tell this to someone or I have to do this. So my dream is a meditation as well. And dimethyltryptamine is being produced when you're dreaming. So it may be also with the meditation that you're kind of microdosing that molecule within your body.
Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. I could see that totally connecting for sure. And how crazy is like DMT? Like when you really start to learn about it, it's like it's in everything, absolutely everything. They say it's in plants, it's in soil, it's in I mean, you could find it in almost everything. Yeah, it's in us, and we could produce it. As Wim Hof will describe, he has a whole video on it on how you could tap into it on your own. You don't need to take any drugs or anything. Like it's inside us. It's crazy.
Yeah, so with dreams, we know we produce it, but I'm not sure with meditation if the same molecule gets activated in a way if you have this out of body experience, because anybody that has tried the drug itself, there is literally an out of body experience. Mm-hmm. So you can have that without taking it. So maybe the molecule is still working within your body. Same as with dreaming, but
yeah,
I'm not
definitely.
sure. It's just a question. But
yeah, I don't know if we'll ever know the answer to that technically. I mean, maybe one day. I don't know, but like, it makes sense. It makes sense of how you describe it and break it down, and really like, oh god, DMT could get that we could absolutely have some insane experiences on that, and I've heard like all kinds of stories, but like to try to connect the two with like the dream world, I don't know how similar they would be. You know what I mean? So like I could totally see it relating, but I think like the actual drug itself, taking it, is probably going to take you to a whole other level of a dream state that we've never experienced, right?
And even then, in that state, you're going to see geometrical figures. So once again, it comes back to the mathematics we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think that I sent you that video, and so if you remember the exact number, correct me, but I think it's like 122 triangles, like perfect triangles you could fit around the world, and they do it in certain dimensions. And then when they did this, it's wrapped around the entire world, so it's like perfect triangles, which is our geometrical shapes, right? And at each point, there's a pyramid. Each one of those points, a triangle, there's a pyramid.
Yeah.
Like our ancient people knew this. They knew the entire circumference of the Earth. They knew the measurements of it. They knew all the mathematics of like how far a star would be, how far the sun would be from the Earth. How'd you guys figure this out? How's this?
Without satellites or evidence with flying objects, right? They just figured it out by being on Earth.
Yeah, I think like DMT and a lot of that stuff taps into those. Dream states, meditation taps into this knowledge. And like people could sit back and say it's crazy all they want. I know that like Western civilization does not like to acknowledge it that much, but it's absolute fact. Like, how did they figure this stuff out? You go into
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you're good, man. Go ahead.
There is strong evidence for civilizations like the Mayans, the Egyptians, of taking psychedelics for their spiritual knowledge, for their wisdom. We know that that's a fact.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what was the Mayans were very famous for ayahuasca, which ayahuasca's got to be one of the strongest ones out there, and takes you through a crazy trip, or however you want to word it. I don't know, alternate world. But yeah, dude, they all did it, and they all depicted it. They all wrote about it. They said what it did to them. You know, so like we can't deny that there's some sort of significance there, especially when they're building these things that are unexplainable, right?
And even famous philosophers or scientists we know today take or took DMT, LSD, psilocybin, whatever. Not only the Egyptians 10,000 years ago, but Einstein, for instance, or Steve Jobs, we know, of course, Socrates and Plato. All those people are involved in that as well. And not a lot of people know that, but that's a fact as well.
Yeah, I think it's just it's a tough pill for people to swallow. I know that there's like a whole other theory out there too. And they talk about like psilocybin there's pretty strong evidence saying that it's the cause of the doubling of our brain. So like they say that like, you know, monkeys back in the day were flipping over pies and they started eating them.
Yeah,
and that's what doubled their brain.
Theory. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows what's what, but like there's strong evidence to back that up. And it's very hard to argue with some of those guys. Like and like you said, like all of these like top scientists have taken psychedelics, and they'll all tell you like they've had crazy revelations on it. Like a lot of their ideas come from them, you know? So like there's definitely significance there for sure.
And Graham Hancock breaks this down as well. Our society is not against altered state of consciousness, because you can buy alcohol everywhere. We can buy tobacco. You can buy Ritalin for kids that have ADHD. There's all these kind of altered state of conscious substances you can take, and that's okay. But the moment you resort to DMT or psilocybin, it's weird, or you're a drug user, or you're an addict, or it doesn't add up for me. And if you look at those drugs, they don't harm the body as well. So psilocybin has not a negative effect like alcohol. So I was wondering, what's the whole reason for this? And that dates to the Vietnam War in the US in the 1960s. There was this revelation by people that took psychedelics, like, what are we doing? Why are we fighting our own species, right? And they couldn't handle with that, like, then you're fighting two wars, right? People, like the Civil War in your country, but also the Vietnam. So they shut it off. They had the whole propaganda of saying, if you take LSD, you're going to go crazy, and they're going to make it illegal, and people were criminalized. People are still in jail for that. Just crazy thought. So that's the whole reason it got illegal. And now finally people are waking up. Canada is doing clinical tests where they have people PTSD or stress or other traumas. And it really works. It's better than all the Prozac and all the other medicines that we have nowadays. And even the way we go through therapy, it works better with taking, for instance, psilocybin. So I'm happy the world is finally waking up, and we have all these clinical trials, and there's a positive result. So, and Graham Hancock says the same thing. There is a change, but we're living the change right now. It's still going slowly, but I think 50 years from now, we're going to look back and like, what were we doing?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, like the unfortunate part as you're going over like all these things we accept, all of those kill your consciousness, you know, and like the stuff that's illegal raises consciousness. And like, I don't know how much that was a factor in making it illegal, but like, I think that's very curious. Like, how is it possible that alcohol is legal and marijuana is illegal? That makes zero sense when you think about like what it does to you physiologically. Like it's alcohol is horrible for you. There's not one good thing about it. Not one good thing. And there's definitely bad qualities of marijuana for sure, but like you can't point anything out it really does to you, like a negative impact for your health. You know, like it doesn't like over years just completely deteriorate you and change you as a person. You know, you could get lazier on it. You probably could, you know, forget things. You might hug your kids a little more. That's about it. You know, laugh at stupid jokes. I mean, like, yeah, I've never understood the disconnection.
And we have to make this clear. Any drugs can be bad if you try to escape from this. We discussed this in other podcasts as well. If you don't want to face reality, or if you have a problem and your gateway, it could be a gateway drug if you're trying to escape from something, right? But as long as you did some meditation and you're able to reflect and you're in a good place, It's okay to take altered state of consciousness, whether it's taking a beer, okay, that's fine. Whether it's people smoking weed or whatever, like we have to stop saying this is bad and this is good. Just see it as the same and look at the effects on the body, indeed, like you're saying.
Like I think the biggest thing is too is like what you and I've talked about it, but it's escaping from, like, what are you escaping from? And so if you're utilizing it to escape your life, understand what you're doing there. You're trying to escape your life. That means you got to fix your life. Don't escape. You can't escape it at night and then go back to it the next day. Like, that's going to keep causing the same problem. It's going to make it way worse. So I think, like, the best thing that you've said to me was, like, if you're using it to escape from your reality, like, obviously this is going to, like, be a super negative thing in your life. I think if we look at that, like, the reason why, if you're doing it to just have fun with the friends, once a month or whatever, it's perfectly fine. But if you're using it every single night to get away from, like, what you're dealing with the next day, like, this is not going to be good for you.
Yeah, this is a good question. And not even with substances, but also with training, for instance. I was thinking this over.